Yeah, right, and we're ready to go. So welcome again from Fothergale. This is obviously my drawing board behind me, and I'm going to chat to you today about something that needs an absolute super cute warning on it. It's going to absolutely melt your heart, these little clips that we're going to show you now. So this year I've been really fortunate to be following a Hare and her Leverates, which has just been incredible. So we plunged into lockdown in March, and I was out in the garden actually filming some long-tail tits, and as I was doing this filming of long-tail tits, I came across some leverets, which was really, really special. I just saw a female hare lolloping away from these leverets. You're right showing that video, Will, and we'll show you the video of these little leverets, which are just literally melt your heart. I couldn't believe I found them. I found many leverets over the years in these little forms where they keep them tucked away. But this is what I saw. I saw a female hare just lolloping away in the woodland, and I just looked to the point where she'd come from. And this was just a couple of metres away from me. So we've got little leverets that these have literally just been born within the last day. So both of those would fit in the palm of my hand without any problem. And this is a very special thing to see because the female gives birth to them hidden away in the undergrowth, and I was lucky enough to see these tiny little leverets. So this became one of my big projects of the year. I've spent, I think it's well over 40 days filming this family of hares this year, which was shown on the One Show just not so long ago, and people are asking me about it from around the world. They can't see the One Show, they can't see the BBC, so we're going to show you a few of the clips today and give you a little insight into that story. So you want to show another video, Will? What have we got next? We've got this. Oh, this is the moment I set up the cameras as soon as I found the leverets, and she only feeds these leverets once every 24 hours. And this was on the third night after I found the leverets, so now they're about 3 days old. And this was just one of those really special moments. Just after dusk, as it gets dark, the female leveret comes in and feeds the leverets. On the first night, the leverets were waiting in that form, and on the second night of filming, which is the third night after I found them, the little leverets were just waiting off camera, and I could see them on a wide shot, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to capture this footage. And she just hopped into the form with them, and the leverets followed her in. But you can see there the size of them, tiny little things, much smaller than a hare's head. You know, they're about the length of the hare's ear, not even the length of the hare's ear there, so you can see how tiny they are. And this was something that I've been trying and thinking about filming for years. We have hares in the garden every year giving birth to leverets, and they do this for a few reasons, and I think one of the main reasons is to try and keep them safe from foxes and other predators. But what this poor hare doesn't know is that we have a lot of predators already in the garden, and so it was a rather dramatic sort of story along the way. But there's some moments here. One of my favourite moments, I'll just fast forward this video. She feeds them for about, the longest she would spend was about 9 minutes. So this isn't a whole 24-hour period. She would just come and feed them at just after dark each night. And this is, I'll just rewind this a little bit. So yeah, this is it. She's actually eating the droppings from the leverets to disguise any scent. She rolls them over and eats their droppings each time she feeds them. And this is all completely silent. In some of the books they suggest the hare calls the leverets up, and this is simply not true, but this is just one of those standout moments. She's preparing to leave these leverets again for a whole 24-hour period, and she's just checking for droppings there that she needs to eat to disguise any scent. And she just tucks them in into the undergrowth a little bit, and that's it. She then will leave them for a full 24 hours after just a 7-8 minute feed, which is just extraordinary. And these little leverets then creep away into the undergrowth. So on the third night, so we've got the leverets sleeping together for 3 nights, and on the third night after find them, the leverets separate and they start sleeping in different areas, completely different areas, so they're spread out in the undergrowth and they just lay there completely still, motionless for the rest of the day and return to a feeding place at night. So it's quite an extraordinary thing to happen. But we've got a few more videos, we'll show you the next video. So as these leverets grow, the dramas continue, and this, if you can just see up on the road on this shot, we've got a lot of drama going on. This is one of our stoats chasing the leverets, but the female hare comes rushing in and actually chases the stoat away, and we captured this on several cameras throughout the car park, and the female hare, so we're playing this again so you can just see what happens. So we've got cameras everywhere for the wildlife, but also for like security as well, so these cameras capture wildlife as well, and this is, you know, a really dramatic moment. We've got a hare within a whisker of being caught, and luckily the female hare hears it calling and comes in and intercepts it. So that was like a really dramatic moment, but from this day on we had an incredible sort of encounters each night that I would actually go out and wait for the hare to come into the car park and things. So we'll show you some videos there of this. So I'm actually sat there in the courtyard. You can just see me with a torch behind, and this is the female hare coming in to feed the leveret once it was bigger. So she'd moved it from the wood out into the open, and this was quite an extraordinary thing to capture. I've been wanting to capture this for years, and I know nearly every year a hare feeds her young out in the gallery car park, but this is, you know, super special to be there. I was there each night, just sat there just after dusk as it drops dark, and it's just magic when you see the hare coming in and off the road through the gallery car park, and the little leveret often used to hide underneath the cars, but you can see here even at this stage she's turning this leveret over and cleaning it up. She's eating any drop-ins to keep disguising any scent trails, and probably taking back some of the goodness, because hares eat their own drop-ins anyway when they're feeding. They eat them again to get all of the nutrients out of the stuff that she eats. So this is quite normal then to be eating the drop-ins from the leverets, because she'll be gaining back some of that rich milk. And this is it again. This happened night after night. They'll just separate again. The female goes off for another 24 hours and leaves that leveret, and this is tactical. So she's not wanting to attract attention to that leveret. She only visits it for a short amount of time as possible. And as this leveret grew throughout the year, we followed the progress of this leveret, and unfortunately, as you could see in that last clip, we only had one leveret by then. So we had tawny owls chasing after them, we had the stoats, there's badgers here as well, and other predators, weasels. So we lost one of those leverets, but one of them then did grow almost to adulthood. We saw it doing really well, and we'll show you this clip. So this is it, probably about 4.5 months old here. So when they get to 5 months old, 6 months old, they're almost fully grown. But this is the leveret, same leveret, just 20 metres away from where it was born there. It still enjoyed coming to our garden and visiting the garden, and we're kind of hoping, you know, next year we get more leverets, more hares, and I've now got a greater understanding of how to capture these images. But this is weeks and weeks of work just to capture these special little moments, and it was I think we should show them the first clip again, because that has literally got the super cute factor. I mean,
you have to have a cute warning for this footage.
Yeah, it needs a warning on it, this one. But that's, you know, the first day that I started with this leveret. It was leveret and hare story. It was the perfect antidote for me for lockdown. We were plunged into lockdown in March. I had all these plans to film wildlife in this country and also around the world, and this saved my sanity, these hares, because I could really just concentrate my time in getting this really intimate special footage of the hares. So questions. Is there anything I've missed, Will?
I think you've covered everything there.
Mm-hmm.
What we can do first is just say thank you to Sarah's Victoria on YouTube for your super sticker that you've sent, and also to Tracy Lane on Facebook for her stars.
Yeah, thank you.
All of the contributions go towards Robert's wildlife work, so we're very grateful for that. And then we'll take a few questions. So if you do have any more questions as we go through, do feel free to pop those in the chat, and we'll get through as many of them as we can. So the first one we have is from someone on YouTube called Lady Dark Bunny, who says, how did you start rehabbing wildlife? Did you self-teach or have help from someone?
Yes, I've been rehabbing wildlife since I was a little boy, and just I was brought up on a farm, so I was very much used to farm life, but also wildlife. I mean, I kept so many different animals, from rabbits to ferrets to pigeons, pheasants, turkey, geese. You know, I literally had a pet fox. I had all sorts of animals, so I was used to caring for animals. But I have this sort of, I don't know what it is, but I just love animals and I love taking care of them. So it's this almost inbuilt nurturing side that I have. So I started sort of rehabbing wildlife at a very early stage. I've had a lot of help from other people along the way and advice. Jean from Rydale Rehabilitation, I've done work with her and the RSPCA, helping getting wildlife back to the wild, and that's my main sort of goal, is actually returning wildlife back to the wild in an actual way that actually works, because it's very simple to rear wildlife in captivity, and one of the trickiest stages of all is actually releasing it back into the wild if it's a young animal, for instance, and that's the tricky bit. You can raise it, but you've got to actually then get it to cope in the wild, and that's the part I enjoy. And as if you're following what we're doing, that's a big part of my life is getting this wildlife back into the wild where it should be. So
Madeline on YouTube asks, how did you get this passion for animals, cameras and photography?
I think it's just inbuilt. I've been following animals since I was a toddler. I would just spend ages looking into the garden pond, literally watching great diving water beetles, larvae catching tadpoles. I'd watch the water fleas, the water boatmen, the wolf spiders that come off the edge, and all of the... So since a toddler, I've just been absorbed and watching wildlife. I think my mum thought there was something wrong with me, and probably there is. But they've shared my love and interest of wildlife as well, which helps. My dad's very much into wildlife, and all our family is now too. So it's literally is my life, wildlife. So that's simple as that.
Is it common to have hares close to the city? And that question comes from AE on YouTube.
So you can get hares in unusual places. In general, hares are very shy animals in the UK. So we live 20 miles from any city. So we're very lucky here on the Yorkshire Wolds that it's a very high concentration area of hares. But to have them actually in cities would be quite unusual. Rabbits, will cohabit with people a lot more, but not hares.
Just got a couple of thank yous there.
Yeah, I can't read. You forgot that, didn't you?
I did. So thanks to Man Sullivans for your super sticker on YouTube, and to Sue Irvin for stars on Facebook. We've got a question here from Nicola Patterson on Facebook, who says, how many leverets does a hare have?
Yeah, so that's pretty simple. So a hare will normally have a good litter's like 3, but they can often have 1, 2, sometimes 3. So they don't have large litters, but they have a lot of them each year, so they can have up to 5 litters, I think, in a year, has been known. So they can be breeding. Everyone in this country talks about Mad March hares, and that is the peak of the breeding season, but there's only less than a month round about in November and December where you might not have hares breeding. But obviously little tiny leverets this sort of big, not all of them survive in the trickier times of year. I've seen leverets in the depths of winter in December, little tiny leverets crouched down in the undergrowth.
Wonderful. So String of Stars, who's one of our moderators on YouTube, so thank you very much to all of the moderators for all your hard work.
Yeah.
So of the animals you rehab, how many stay in the area?
Oh gosh, that's a tricky question. yeah, so when I rehab with the tawny owls, I'll actually get them to do a lot of the hard work where I surrogate chicks onto them. But by the autumn, every autumn, the tawny owls are pushed out by the adult birds. So we end up with a pair just at ours every autumn. So some will stay locally, some of the barn owls will stay locally, and some of them will be actually pushed territorially by adult birds or animals further afield. So it's nice when they stay locally, and you've got to be realistically, when we release wildlife, not all of these animals will survive, but I'd rather they have a chance at life in the wild rather than a life in captivity.
That's great. I think that's all the questions we're going to take today. So Robert, do you want to just tell us what we'll be doing tomorrow?
What are we going to be doing tomorrow?
So we're going to go through your collection, if you remember.
Yeah, which one?
Your skull collection, I believe.
Oh, yeah. So I'm going to show you some of the things I've collected over the years and some really special little items that I've got from skulls. So that's as a little boy, or as a baby, I used to actually, I remember distinctly, I would actually do collections of everything. So I'd collect the fluff off my jumper, you know, the little bubbles, and I'd have all the little bubbles in my cot of little bits of things that I've collected, and I'd have very few memories from when I was very young, but I do remember my mum always then tidying these bits of fluff up that I collected, and I used to be quite upset that my little collection of fluff had gone. So since a toddler I'd been collecting things, so I started collecting skulls, sometimes birds' nests when they were vacated in the winter. So I spent a lot of time collecting special things. Will's going to bring some examples. There's another one up there. So these are just a couple of examples of things like feathers that I collect. These are some of my best feathers here. I have them close to me in the studio. So we've got things like a golden eagle feather found in the wild, and as you can see by the size of that, it's monstrous. And then I've got things like a white-tailed eagle feather here, which is even bigger than the golden eagle. This is a primary feather of the golden eagle. I'm not showing it to the camera properly. I'm all back to front here. And other sea eagle feathers here. So I have all sorts of collections of different things that I find, and I can't resist picking them up and keeping them. When you find 2 golden eagle tail feathers in the wild and things like that, it's just incredible. So yeah, I've been collecting things for years, and I've got some real special stuff I can show you tomorrow.